Hello. Hola. Oh, oh, uh-oh. It's just me? Hey guys, welcome to my podcast. Just me today.
There we go. I fixed it. That was weird.
Taking over.
Alrighty. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Moment in Time. I don't currently have my intro pulled up, so
Let's
welcome.
go.
This is a place
Welcome.
where I talk to Larkin and Alex when he appears, when he's around, about like just random things. Today we don't really have a guest, so we're just trying to hang out since it's been a while since we just talked to the three of us. Um,
True. True.
Alex
Nice.
is here in spirit until he actually shows up, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, let's just get into it. So today, I only had like three very serious topics listed here. I
Dude,
don't know.
I got plenty of serious topics. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Just
Okay, I don't want to get right into this though.
well,
Um,
I mean, look. I mean, what are we gonna do? We got Alex is not here. I'm ready to get into the meat and potatoes.
okay,
You know,
all right.
enough
This
about the weather. It's raining, bro. It feels like it's a dark, miserable day out here in New York. Um,
really, it's actually
yeah, it
bright
is.
outside for the first time in several days because it's been snowing all
Okay.
week.
Okay, I see. Okay, so you don't exactly have the theme here, but it is pouring rain. It's dark. It's dreary.
hmm
I woke up like an hour ago. I'm
I woke up an hour ago too.
let's go, bro.
Although I
It
was
just
specifically waiting for it to be light outside for me to be forced awake.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I slept through an alarm, so
Ah, I did too. I slept through too.
oh nice. Okay.
And then I was like, why are these running on the weekend? This is dumb.
Yeah. Oh, actually, well, that's actually a quick tangent. So I tried using the like Apple sleep. They have there's a health app on built into Apple, and one of those things is for sleep, and so it
Okay.
tells you like how many hours you slept a night roughly, and whether or not you kept up with a sleep schedule. And
Right.
one of the things I've been worst at since working is keeping on a consistent sleep schedule.
Hmm.
Like my goal every night is to get 8 hours of sleep,
That's
and it
very
happens.
weird.
It happens like very infrequently.
Honestly,
Usually,
that's a little strange that that doesn't happen
uh,
consistently for you. Because I feel
I'm
like,
just
and
like
go
I
ahead.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm don't I lack the discipline in
Uh
that
huh.
aspect of my life to go to sleep on time. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Let me lower my volume a little bit because my ears are hurting from you talking.
It's like um like when you're in school and you have an essay due, but you just can't make yourself do it until the night before.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure.
I'm just procrastinating on
Not even
sleeping.
the night before, like 3 hours before.
Yeah, like that, like
You just
like
don't
literally
sleep the night before, you're
as it's
fine.
being handed in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's precisely, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I just like procrastinate on sleep. Like I'm like, man, there were all these things I wanted to do today
hmm
that didn't happen. Might as well do them 30 minutes before bed. That makes
That makes
a
perfect sense.
remarkable amount of sense. Yeah.
I always feel like I'm like, oh, I have enough things to do today, and it's always too much stuff to do in the day. And then it's like 10 o'clock, and I'm
Yeah.
like, should I sleep or should I just keep going? What's going on here? Um,
Right.
yeah. This week was kind of thrown off by that a little bit because I initially thought I was going to get my piano earlier in the week. So I was like, oh, Wednesday, I will, practice the circle of fifths and like
Mm,
start playing some scales and stuff. And
sure.
then it only arrived yesterday, so that got thrown
Uh,
off. Not really in my control there. But
yeah.
it happens sometimes where it's like, oh, there are these few things that I wanted to do, and then I can't do it for some reason, and then it just kind of snowballs a little bit to the next couple days
Sure, yeah.
because you're like, oh, I didn't do anything yesterday. It's not like I could have done tomorrow's tasks today. That doesn't make any sense. So then you just don't do tasks for a few days. Um, yeah, but that is strange though that for your sleep schedule, being at a job doesn't really impact it for you. It's always been that anytime I've gone back to a 9 to 5 esque job,
Mm.
my sleep has gotten more consistent because I have to wake up at the same time and
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say it is consistent. I do get like a consistent like 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep a night.
okay,
Um, like consistently every night, and I will wake up on time and make the train and whatever. But
gotcha.
the problem is I'm not hitting like the quota,
Right.
so to speak. Like I know I can get away with 7 hours, but I won't be the most focused at work, and I'll probably end up having very low energy by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And just like an extra hour, hour and a half would be like a significant difference.
Right.
So I don't know. There's something
Well,
we worked on there, like psychologically.
right. I
I
mean, you're
think.
also used to sleeping for like 12 hours.
Also used to sleeping. That's the other thing. Like I think I don't know. Different people need different amounts of sleep on average,
Right.
and or I should say like more measurably sleep for a different periods of time if they're just left alone.
Yeah.
On average. Uh, and so I will sleep for like 10 hours, 10.5 hours on average. Um, if I don't set an alarm. When I was a kid, I would sleep for like 11 plus, like for sure, easily. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm just someone who needs a lot of sleep, and yet I somehow have tricked myself into not prioritizing it. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. It's a terrible habit. It's been the same habit since like college level. I don't understand. But
Yeah, I think it definitely depends. I do wonder if like what aspects actually impact how much sleep that you need, right? I would be curious like to see if
yeah,
exercise, diet, if those things also have an impact because they might. I'm
right.
not too sure. Um, I do know that I feel more energized after I work out, and that's just like a thing that happens. You're
Mm-hmm.
also more
Right.
mentally capable if you're working out consistently as well.
Yeah.
But if that also like deeply impacts sleep, I'm not too sure. That would be an interesting experiment. Although I wouldn't want to experiment that on myself. That feels like it could be cause
Yeah.
for disaster.
Yeah, I read like there's this crazy Wikipedia article about people who have pushed for the world record for the longest time without sleep.
Really?
And yeah, and it's I like how many days do you think you could go without sleep before just like inevitably succumbing?
Maybe like two?
Yeah, like two. I feel like okay, if it was like $1 million on the line or something, I feel like
Yeah.
you could push for three or four, like under really extreme
Right.
circumstances.
Perhaps. But
Like
if it's
a
just for
hundred
the
hours,
record,
like
probably not.
yeah, just for the record, probably not. But like okay, let's say if someone was giving you $1 million to stay awake for 100 hours straight,
Hmm.
you could probably do it. I mean, it might be like
Yeah, about just over four
immeasurably
days. Yeah.
difficult. Yeah. But like
You'd have
maybe.
to keep your mind and body engaged all the time.
Yeah, some like I don't know what you could do to
Yeah.
like I feel like you'd need like eye clamps to just like keep your eyes open.
Well, you could still
you
fall
know?
asleep with your eyes open though.
Um
So,
that's true, dude. Yeah, I have no idea, man. I
yeah,
don't know.
you
It would
you
be
would just have
difficult,
to be
but like
constantly engaged by things and people and stuff like that,
something.
right?
Yeah. Maybe
So,
always talking to people like so like they slap you if you're falling asleep
right.
like
I mean, you could probably do it
I don't know.
quite easily if you can get enthralled within a TV show or like some type of content, right?
Mm,
Because that can be
yeah.
that's very clearly something that can prevent you from wanting to go to
Right.
bed. It'll keep you up at least for a
Yeah.
while before
I
you're
feel like
taken aback. Yeah.
if you were playing on like a Minecraft server, a new Minecraft server, you could go
Hmm.
100 hours straight, you know? Like
I don't think I could
with
do that anymore, to be honest. I feel like
with
I'd get
people
so
with
bored.
people in your well,
Oh, with
oh, you would get
people
bored, I see. With people in
online?
your ear, obviously, like you're talking to people
Right.
with like an
Okay.
explicit goal in mind. I don't know. You could fabricate like some like situation like
Yeah,
that,
you
right?
could
Where
do
like
it where it's like you're just always on. You're always
yeah,
doing a specific thing, and
mm,
so you can't stop at all. But I feel like the moment you pause, right,
it's over.
it's
Yeah.
over. So like if you have to use the restroom or something, could be a
Oh
problem.
yeah, you would
Like
just
you
need a bucket, like just you can't move, and the food is just right there,
Oh
and you're.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's another thing I didn't think about, like caffeine.
Yeah.
Oh, you could probably go 100 hours with cocaine, right? Anyway, I
I mean,
mean,
I've never tried.
I'm just
I wouldn't
guessing,
know.
I don't know, like some sort of like insane stimulant, like I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, this Wikipedia article was talking about the world record without any stimulants or like
Even caffeine
any
or
any drugs.
tea?
Yeah, yeah. It didn't specify, but I assume that includes caffeine tea. Basically, no cocaine or anything crazy like that, right?
Right.
Um.
Maybe don't keep
Anyway,
saying that word because I don't know how
yeah.
if people are
Oh,
gonna be
I
like,
mean,
"Oh, this is not a video for
uh,
children."
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Children leave now. Anyway, yeah. I hope children are watching this. Anyway, okay. Uh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, okay. The world record is like 14 days.
Right.
Like this guy was
14
like,
days. What was he
it's
doing?
yeah. Um, it seemed like he was just mostly going about daily life. Um, and then he just had some help, just being kept constantly awake and being monitored,
Mhm.
with like, health specialists and whatever. And he was
Right.
just literally crazy. Like this guy, he was insane. Um, I think I don't remember, but anyway, what I found most fascinating was, I suspect like after day 3 or 4, like
Mhm.
hallucinations start to set in.
Right.
Psychosis, right?
Right.
It's a very well established phenomenon that after
They
a
did
few
this in
days without sleep.
iCarly.
Okay,
I think they
all
were
right.
I think they were trying to stay up for some reason, and
Oh my
I'm
god.
pretty sure that there was an episode where they were trying to stay up, and they ended up having like delusions. They started seeing things and everything. It was very
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it really happens, like, you just actually lose your mind. Anyway,
Mhm.
so this guy is, like, 14 days deep
Right.
in hallucinations, like, crazy bouts of insomnia and
Mhm.
psychosis, right? So he finally goes to sleep after breaking the world record. And what I found the most fascinating was the guy slept for, like, 16, 17 hours or something straight
Mhm.
afterwards, right? Completely expected, of course.
Right.
Um, and when they woke up, they were fine. There was no long-term damage.
That's
Um,
interesting.
the following night, they slept for, like, another, like, 12, 13 hours,
Mhm.
whatever, and then it was, like, life back to normal.
Hmm.
Like, there was basically there were no, like, long-term ramifications as far as they could tell,
Right.
of this, like, insane, like, 14 days sleep deprivation.
Right. I mean,
And I was like,
I guess that also makes sense because it's not like he did that consistently for like a few years, right? It's not like
"Sure,
once a
sure,
month
yeah,
he was
yeah,
doing it or something like that.
sure."
I would feel like, or I have a feeling that it would have a longer lasting impacts if he did it constantly, right? If it was like,
Mhm.
today I'm going to stay up as long as I can, and then I'm going to repeat the process and repeat the process and repeat the process,
Yeah.
because that can
And
have a
we do.
that can
Yeah,
have an
I
impact.
mean,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of studies, yeah, showing like what effect sleep deprivation has on adolescence and
Right.
like their growth and I don't know, their growth in many different ways, like physical, intellectual, like
Yeah.
yeah, it has a lot of effects, a lot of negative effects, which
Are you telling me I
doesn't bode
shouldn't
well.
have like just randomly stayed up every night?
Yeah, I'm just thinking getting 6 or fewer hours of sleep every night for like 4 years straight in high school might not have been a play, but
Because
it's behind us.
I
So
mean, I
anyway.
don't think I did that senior year. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure.
senior year was better actually. Senior year was, I didn't
Yeah.
have a first period, so,
Uh huh.
that was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I had zero
yeah.
period, man. I was always there, man.
Yeah, I don't know,
Um,
man.
no,
Anyway,
I think it slowed
yeah.
down by the time like maybe junior year came around for me, because I was always like sleeping in.
Oh, I
I was
know.
always tired.
Dude, I remember freshman year bio class,
Oh
bro.
yeah, that was great. That was
I'm
great.
looking around the room, Albert's in the corner, just
And he's
passed out,
passing out
like
like this.
oh my god, dude. That was funny. That was too good. Anyway.
Hey man,
Anyway.
I did well in that class. I don't
Yeah.
think I got an A. I think I got a B in that class, if I remember.
You know,
Um,
honestly, for only being present for like half the class, that's pretty good. Like
that
that's
is
a
pretty
that's a
good.
win. That's a win.
I agree. Uh, honestly, I'm surprised I
God.
did okay. I think that I did better. I did better than I probably should have in school somehow.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think that was also just because um, I think so surprisingly enough, I think I'm actually quite smart. But I think that my lack of sleep always impacted me, and then
Yeah, for sure.
since then I've just had like motivation issues where I'm just like not interested in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
it that makes it difficult sometimes to do like whatever I need to do. Um so yeah, it's interesting. Where I'm like, oh,
I
I
feel like
somehow did baseline well in these courses
Right, right,
without
right.
really ever studying or trying and stuff like that. The only exceptions are like BC Calc. It was like senior year. That
Mm,
was the only real exceptions, I feel like,
yeah.
where there was a class that truly was insanely difficult and it was something that I
Right, right, right.
really needed to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the only other course that affected me that way would probably be like geometry, but that was just I needed to study a little bit at the
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
Like that logic
Yeah,
stuff confused me, and then I did very poorly on
yeah,
that first exam. So
right.
I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't
but
know. Yeah, I feel like this is like a not a common sentiment, but it happens to quite a few people where like they go through high school and like you know grades aren't perfect. You get like mixed results or whatever, right?
yeah,
But like it's not like an intellectual issue or something. It's like there's like something
it's in lack of
else
interest.
impacting. It's like yeah, it's a lack of motivation, or it's like I don't know, like ADHD or something. Like
Right.
like, there's so many like I see like I feel like I've seen this. It's about like
Hey,
talking about
Alex.
school.
Oh,
Like I feel like I've seen this in like so many. Like I have so many examples off the top of my head of like people who like I mean they did fine in school, like but it was like they really started to flourish once school was over because for motivation purposes and like
Yeah,
whatever like uh, for whatever reason this school setup was very misaligned with like how they succeed and then
yeah. I mean,
um
personally speaking, I think school was 95% a waste of time. Like 95%.
yeah,
And
I wouldn't go that
I
high.
think I've mentioned this to you before, like a few years ago. I'm pretty sure we
Mm,
had a conversation about this.
mm.
Like post college. You probably don't remember, but
No,
um,
no, not offhand.
I remember being like the only things that I think that came out of school was the ability to talk to other students, like other people your age. I think that's the biggest thing. And then
That's a big one, yeah.
the other thing that I think that school typically fails at, but there should be teaching you, is how to learn things. And I did not learn how
Mm.
to learn things in school.
by,
I didn't.
by school,
Um,
you're talking like elementary through high school, or are
yeah,
you including
yeah,
college in that
K
as
through
well?
12.
Oh, just
Yeah,
K through 12.
yeah. Once you're in college, it's different. It's just
Yeah,
different.
I was gonna say I would not agree with that point if you were talking about college, but
No.
like K through 12, yeah, I probably agree. Most of that
Yeah,
stuff I'm never gonna use ever in any type of real world
yeah.
capacity.
Which I'm
Mm.
also like, why don't you teach us how to, deal with economics? Where I'm like,
Okay,
teach
okay.
us actual skills that are
Okay, hold on,
useful.
hold on. So, I mean, okay, I gotta push back on this a
Okay,
little bit
you
here.
can.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I say this as someone who like really enjoyed school, but so obviously I'm biased in that sense. But
Hmm.
like, okay, like I completely agree with you. The lack of economics education in specific, um, is a serious problem,
Right.
right? Like, there's absolutely no excuse that people don't understand basic finances, things like debt and credit and these sort of things.
Yeah.
Um, that makes complete sense to me. And that's a big gap in education. But other than that, like 95% of it is useless. Like, hold on. Like, let's think
Maybe
about.
that's an exaggeration, but like
Oh,
honestly,
I would say not only is it exaggeration, I would say it's a gross exaggeration. I'm gonna make the counter argument that
okay,
most
okay.
of it was actually quite useful in hindsight, right? Like, okay, so like we could take if you take any particular detail,
Hmm.
like a random fact you learned in some American history class,
Right.
or like some random geometry proof, right? Like none of these things are specifically going to be useful. If a single one of these items is like missing from your like intellectual space,
Like long
it,
division.
it like long division. I can't do long division. Like fuck long division. Long division's useless. Anyway, bad example. Anyway, okay. Anyway, okay. But like if a single one of these items is missing, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter, right? It's not going to affect you as a person. However, um, like all the like actual skills that were built up over those like 12, 13 years, whatever. So we're talking mathematical maturity, right? Being able to understand things like concepts like ratios and fractions and things, right? These sort of ideas that like obviously like if you're an engineer it's super useful, but even if you're not, like just being able to just understand basic statistics so you can like reason about like economics and well, economics is probably the most important one, but there are also things like politics. You want to understand like different statistical patterns, like having a mathematical maturity. If we didn't have that education and we stopped at like sixth grade, we wouldn't. the majority of the population would not be able to understand these things to any capacity whatsoever, right? So that's the argument for math, right?
Okay.
And then we'll do
I'm
like
curious to hear
English.
I'm curious to hear the argument for the other subjects. So I would have said
Yeah,
math
yeah, yeah.
is
Yeah.
probably the most important out of everything.
Right,
Well,
right,
well,
yeah,
math
When
yeah.
and
would I ever
English
need like
are the
earth
most.
science?
Yeah.
Sure,
When
yeah,
would I
yeah,
ever need like
yeah.
to learn about like when will I ever need to know what an
I got
igneous
you.
rock is in a real
I
world
got you.
capacity?
And you won't. You're right. Igneous rock, you don't need to. But listen, okay, we can do science, right?
Hey
Okay,
man, I
like
prefer sedimentary rocks. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
about
yeah.
you.
Okay, okay. But like, okay. For science, for example, you don't need to know specifically what an igneous rock is or whatever, right? Honestly, frankly, you could chop out one of these subjects. Earth science is probably the least applicable, right? And you would be perfectly fine, frankly speaking, right? But I'm just saying, having like a basic knowledge of all of these things gives you a good basis to like reason about the world. Like when you read an article potentially saying like it's had some effect, there's been some breakthrough on cancer or something, and you want to
Mhm.
understand, is this sensationalist or is this real? Right? You have a basic background in biology. You know what a cell is,
I would
right?
argue that
Like,
most people
you know,
still don't have a basic understanding as to if an
Yeah,
article
no,
is important or not.
because
sure.
most
Okay,
people
okay.
don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have a basic enough background that if you wanted to, you could go on Wikipedia, digest some information, and educate yourself, and then work from there
Sure.
and actually understand the subject.
Well,
You know, like,
I will have to say. So, I think
mhm,
that early English and early math are definitely important. I don't
sure, yeah,
know any science or history elements that I
mhm,
learned prior to high school that I would
mhm,
have retained. Um, I,
Oh, the
I
water cycle. I remember learning that in like
okay,
elementary
I
school.
guess.
Water evaporates, turns into clouds, and then it rains.
But do you guys think that there are a few years in there where it's just like retreading waters that you've already learned in prior years? Because I feel
No,
like that's
I
something in middle school where I was like, you've learned a lot of these things, but like you're going into, I guess,
yeah,
further
yeah,
depth into them in
yeah.
some ways. But I don't know. It's strange to me that we retread waters so much. Where
yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I don't know. I that's just my opinion.
No,
But
I get what you're saying. Like, you learn like American history like three
yes,
times. You
yes,
learn about the Aztecs like three times, right?
right.
Yeah, okay. But then we're talking about retention, right? And like, how much of this actually would have been retained if you only learned about it in elementary school and then never again? I would argue like most of it would have been gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I was thinking about this earlier this week, and this was actually related to one of the questions that I had written down, in
Mhm,
regards to the education system. But I feel as though you have your elementary school learnings, right? The biggest thing
yeah.
there is like you're going to interact a lot with other human beings for like the first time in your life outside of your
Hmm.
family.
That's huge. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then on top of that, you'll like do some crafts or whatnot, and like you'll learn about evaporation or whatever. I don't know. Um,
Mhm,
and
A
you'll
water cycle.
yes, and you'll learn basic math, perhaps long division. Um,
mhm.
Alex, by the way, I learned that several of my friends don't know long division last week, and it's kind of shocking.
I mean, if I try, I could probably. That's like the one where you put the number under here and you put the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
number
yeah.
here, and then
Yeah.
you go like, and you do the subtraction. Yeah, I could probably still do it. Maybe
But
Like,
what's
I haven't done
I,
it in a long
I
time.
gotta
I just use a
say,
calculator.
it's kind
yeah.
of strange that to me, like one of the four basic operations is confusing to people to how to do them.
No, like
Okay,
I just that it's easily the most tedious. I feel
okay,
like.
okay. The
I don't know.
operations and
Well,
I
well,
think a long
confusing.
multiplication,
division is way more
multiplication
tedious
though.
than the other three.
Well, multiplication as well. If you're going top down, it has a similar flow. So I don't know.
Like, long
Di-
division, you need to know like multiplication's not that bad. You just go like you do this and you do this and you carry a one. The long division, you have to do this. You put the number in here, you hit here. You're like, okay, how many times is this going into this? And now I gotta multiply that because then I gotta figure out how many because I have to figure out how many times this goes into this, and then I gotta subtract it, and then I gotta write the remainder, and I gotta bring the number down. It is way more complicated than the
That's what
others.
I'm saying, bro.
I
You need to
disagree,
know like
but
every other. You need to know like every other operation to be able to do long division. You need to know multiplication. You need to know subtraction
uh-huh.
and probably addition.
Yeah, it's completely useless.
I
Anyway.
disagree.
I
Yeah,
think
I don't know. I
the
don't
other
know.
ones could stand on their own, no problem. But long division requires that you know at least multiplication
Yeah.
and subtraction to even know how to do it.
I mean,
So
look,
therefore, it's the most
either
complicated.
Okay, okay,
it's
fine.
gonna be a really
Fine.
big number, or you can do the mental math. So
But also
you know,
if you know the multiplication tables, you essentially know division.
That's what I'm saying. You need to know the other operations to be able to do long
so,
division. That's
what
what
if
makes it
for, like,
inherently harder.
For example, like so long as you're, I feel like so long as you're below, like the, so long as you're below like 100, right? Which is the basics of
Okay.
mathematics, right? You learn like 1 times 1 to 10 times 10, right? That's your basic
I
section.
feel like you usually
right?
go up to
12
12
times
times
12?
12. 12 times 12, yeah.
Yeah, you go up to
I guess
12,
12
right?
times
Yeah.
12.
You go up
Yeah,
to
sure.
12. You go up to
Okay.
144.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So if
Mm.
you know that, right, you can at least do
Yeah.
the basic operations of division within your head for the most
Right.
part. So then,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the foundation of it. But then you still like, if you're multiplying like 345 times like 15, you're not just gonna
Uh-huh.
do that in your head typically, right? You probably
No.
could. You probably could.
Speak for yourself,
It,
man.
I mean,
Anyway.
I guess you could, because 5 times whatever, not that difficult,
Well,
and then one
what did you
times
say,
that.
Albert?
So,
Do it in your head right now. What did you say?
anyway,
You wanna?
it'll take a long time. Anyway, you can do that, but you could also do the division in the same vein.
5175. Wait, what was it again? I already forgot the numbers. Anyway.
1545 times 15, I think.
What was
I'm
this?
not sure. I just threw out a number, man.
Wait, I think it was 345 times 15. Did you say
345.
51? Did you
345
say
times
50?
15.
You said 5175, Larkin?
I think so.
Because that was correct. I just did it on my phone.
Yes, let's go.
See, 5175.
Let's go, dude.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
Nice.
okay.
Do you know 5175 divided by 15?
Okay, that's tough, bro.
What do you mean? You just gave
Could
me.
it
It's
could it
345.
potentially be
Oh my
345?
god. Well, yeah, okay, thank you, but I know I get your point. I get your point.
But anyway, I don't know. I was thinking there are a couple of things that bother me about the current school system, including their destruction of like trades being in schools, because they used to be in high school. You used to learn trades in high school, so that after high school you could at least get a job immediately, and you would be trained for something, right? And that to me is like kind of ridiculous, because it kind of forced people to have to go to college when that used to not be
Okay.
the only path. And like there are a few things with the current
Yeah.
education system where I'm like, you don't prepare anyone to do anything with their lives after we finish your 12-year education system.
Okay. I can get with that. Okay. I'll play devil's advocate
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
But, okay. So like, I think generally, if we want to, thinking about it in a very abstract sense, if we want to progress further as a society, we want our population to be more educated on average, right?
Okay. Oh, you said progress, not regress. Okay.
Progress, yes.
I heard regress, and I was like, wait, what?
Progress. I'll get the stone tools now. Like, anyway,
Right.
no, it's, yeah. So if we want to progress society, I think in general we want the average education hopefully higher. And so I would argue that it's a step in the right direction. That nowadays, compared to say 50 years ago, the average level of education to find like a good long stable degree has moved away from the high school diploma and towards a college degree.
Right.
And so an alternate to a college degree, which you would take the similar sort of track, but you just get a different certification, is like a trade certificate.
Yeah.
You know, whatever they give at the end of a trade school. And so I see like high school, middle school, elementary school as being a prerequisite to both of those, where at the end of high school, you've been given these foundational concepts that will allow you to be a good, productive citizen no matter what. And then you're given the choice as to whether or not to specialize in trade school or to specialize in college. Now, I think what you're arguing here is like, well, you know, we could cut out a lot of time and a lot of bullshit if in high school we taught trades that students were going to use for the long term.
Yes.
And I agree.
Or at least they could start to think about which path they wanted, or if they're not sure, they could at least have some training in those areas and figure it out like over that 4-year period. It's just I don't know. It's
like, well, okay, I agree, but I'm just thinking from a practical perspective, right? Like if we think about our high school, for example, there were a couple instances where there were a couple of unique classes, like you could practice like graphic art. There was like a wood shop, you know.
Okay.
There were a couple.
Those were terribly run.
I understand, but I'm just saying.
Horrible classes.
I know. Just hear me out. But okay, those were like examples where they allowed students to like branch out and maybe
Yeah.
find something interesting. Like I imagine there were at
Right.
least a couple students who got into graphic art because of that graphic art program we had in high
Maybe.
school, right?
Yeah, that's
A couple,
possible.
like a couple students. Not saying they were perfectly run or anything like
Right.
that, right? And we're not saying they were even particularly helpful. But that was an effort being made by our school that's very unique because the school is well funded, right?
That is
And
true.
like on average, schools just don't have the funding to provide like a wide berth of options for many different types of students,
Mm-hmm.
including trades. So the best thing they can do with a limited budget, I would argue,
Mm-hmm.
is to give them like what I was saying before, like good fundamentals to make them like a
Right.
smart, well-rounded, reasonable person, and then they can choose what to do afterwards, whether that's trade school or college, or if they already have some job they could lined up that they want to pursue, then they can do that.
So then, do you think
Uh,
I'm curious about this? So do you think
yeah.
that um, school, like in the just going to the current education system,
Mhm.
is much better than say having a like a more of a homeschooled type of situation, like after your first maybe 10 years, if you spent like 10 years in the normal education system where like you went through elementary school, maybe some middle school or something,
Sure.
and then shifted over to a network where it was more like, okay, I'm gonna learn the things that are actually of interest to me with the things that I actually want to do and stuff like that. So perhaps focusing more on what someone actually wants to do as opposed to forcing them to do like the same
Sure. Sure.
cookie cutter types of things that they might
Yeah.
not necessarily have an interest in. Because I feel as though where a lot of students are lost, right, is that they're forced to do things that they see no value in. And
Right.
I remember seeing this in a lot of people in high school, and I
Mm.
saw it in myself too, where it's like I don't see the purpose behind me taking a lot of these courses beyond, oh, you need to take these courses to get into a college, and
Yeah.
like that's a strange thing to have to think about, where it's like, well, I want to spend my time doing this other thing. I don't really care for this one subject or whatever, and
Right.
say your field of interest has nothing to do with that too. It's difficult to then justify that to me.
Yeah. I hear you. Like I think like I like partially agree with you in that like the last couple years of schooling, you don't like most students don't need another history class. Like it doesn't really help them. Having yet another math class, like taking pre-calculus, is not going to help them if you're like I don't know if you're going to become like a let's just take some arbitrary uh job. Like electrician is a great job,
Hmm.
right? High paying job, technical job. You need
Right.
quite a few years of experience. And but it's not a job you go to college degree for. You
Yeah.
would probably go to trade school for it.
Yeah.
Um, right. So electrician. So to be an electrician, you do not need pre-calculus,
Hmm.
right? You know, you're not an electrical engineer, you're an electrician, right? So
Right.
you need more practical stuff. Um, and so yeah, I completely agree with you. These classes are useless. However, what I would say is like that isn't a fault of the structure itself, but that's a fault of the choice of classes and the classes that are provided. Um, and I don't mean this in the same way as we were talking earlier, where
Hmm.
it would be nicer if other schools could provide a wider berth of options. I understand this is not an
Right.
issue.
Right.
I'm saying they should literally be swapping out the available classes for others.
Okay.
So like economic classes would be more valuable, right?
Right.
Like that's an
Okay.
example. So like I think yeah I think you're right in that there could be a restructuring, but again I like okay and I have to come back to this argument like imagine imagine we had 10 years of
Hmm.
schooling, grade 10,
Yeah.
and then we rephrase the education system to now focus on a trade, right? So suddenly this guy
So like
suddenly so
the
let's say
European
they
system.
stopped. Right. Let's say they
Yeah.
stopped at 10th grade
Yeah.
and then they went on an electrician track.
Yeah.
Right? After uh so after 12th grade, they would have two fewer years of education and then
Hmm.
two more years of electrician. That would help them a lot.
Right.
But let's fast forward like 10 years from now,
Hmm.
right? Those extra 2 years of electrician training accelerate their degree, accelerate them by 2 years, but at the end of that 10-year period, they're still just about the same electrician. Like the
Right.
amount the return they get sort of levels off after a few years. And
Yeah.
they're a good
I agree.
electrician, but they haven't really got anything new. Versus they missed out on a chance at the end of high school to get 2 years of more valuable education in unique subjects that they are
Hmm.
never going to learn on their own in
So
life.
like
And so I
non-specialized.
think
Okay.
Right, non so I think it like if we reduced, like, let's say we reduced it from the cutoff from 12th grade to 10th grade,
Yeah.
and then suddenly they were free to do whatever they want,
Hmm.
like, I think you are reducing the, like, baseline level of education in the population, and we see, like, I mean, that could have
Mm.
disastrous consequences on, like,
I
you
see
know,
what you're saying.
politics.
I do kind of see what you're saying. The one pushback that I will see,
Mhm.
I think you're, I don't think you're disregarding it, but I think you're downplaying the potential of like how much people hate being told to do things that they don't see a value in. So like how
Mhm.
much resentment builds up when you're in high school and you're just
Mhm.
like, why the hell am I taking these courses? I don't
Sure.
like them. They're pointless. I don't see any
Mhm.
value in them. Because people did this even with like math classes, right?
Yeah.
Which to that degree, perhaps it's also an issue with the education system where it's like we don't show the why things are important. It's more like you have to learn this because the state's telling us to teach you this, and that's that. And we don't have time to be like, oh, this is why we're learning this. This is why this is important, right?
Sure. Mhm.
There are very few classes that I felt like they explained that well. Um,
Right.
and I would say, I mean, I think our physics classes mostly did that pretty well because they had a lot of practical demonstrations and would talk about things in the real world. But there were a lot of courses where it's like, this is what I'm teaching you today, and I don't know how to explain when you're ever going to use this. Like for example, like quadratic equations, right? Like there are elements where it's like most people are not going to use this. And so when you as a student look at that and you're already in a lot of ways you're already in a rebellious stage in life because you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm an adult."
Yeah.
Right? I am fully grown. I clearly
Right.
know everything about the world, which I mean, objectively isn't true, but that's the mindset that you're
That's
in.
how it feels. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's also just part of perhaps that's also part of this puberty where it's like as you're going through puberty you feel maybe like that you're more of an adult because I mean technically speaking you are becoming that, right? So maybe there's also a change in the way people's brain patterns are during that stage of life where it's like they're more likely to be like, all right, I know what I can do, what I want to do, what I should be doing, and it's not this. So I feel as though that schools need a better way of exhibiting like this is how this is useful, and perhaps maybe it's not just the specific content that they're talking about, but perhaps it is the skills, the underlying skills that are associated with that, which is like how they're learning for this and things like that. But it's difficult to have that when you're also essentially running on a deadline, right? Because our school structure is you have what, uh 10 months in a year, right?
Sure, yeah.
And you have to get through a specific amount of material, especially in New York where you had like the Common Core. I don't know if that's still a thing now, but
It is,
that
yeah.
was pretty, everyone seemed upset about that on the faculty level where it was,
Yeah.
and it was very clear where it was like people are just trying to get through the stuff because they have to get through it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they might not necessarily even agree with what they have to teach. um I think that that's better than just having a teacher do whatever the hell they want, right? Because then you have different levels of education across different classes, different schools, and stuff like that. But it is interesting to say, in my mind, I just feel like it's there should be something better. Um, I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, again, like I don't have this perspective, I guess, because like I was relatively content in
Hmm.
school. But yeah, no, I do see what your point. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of dislike for this school system because it does feel like a waste of time. And and if it is true, if it is a waste of time, then of course it should be scrapped immediately. I mean, I personally don't
Right.
believe that's the case. Like, I think there's a lot of value in like
Yeah.
general education, but it's hard to see and kind of abstract, and maybe that's part of why it like the
Well,
hatred comes
maybe also, and I don't think there's a better structure than this. This is why I'm unsure in terms of the grading system, right? You're graded on how much you
in. Oh,
know at
right.
the end of it,
Yeah.
as opposed to how engaged you were with the material, how much like you actually cared about what was going on.
Right.
And
Right.
that's also
Mm.
strange. Like you don't get points for being interested. You get points for
It becomes more about memorization and comprehension.
yes. And that's also difficult when, say, your family or like even the entire system in general is telling you you have to get into college, right? Like
Mm,
that is the path forward. And I will say that college is very, very helpful for a lot of people to get an upward mobility, right, within the economic structure. So it has value there. Um, but it is a very
okay.
result oriented section of our life as opposed
Yeah.
to an
Right.
interest oriented spot, and that in and of itself destroys interest, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like for example, right, why, like if someone is interested in, say, technology on some level,
Hmm.
right,
Sure.
um and then they decide, you know what, I'm going to take a course within that, and they feel like they're not grasping the material as quickly as some of the other people, and perhaps they're not, right, and they start doing very poorly. That is extremely demoralizing, when that what
Yeah.
should happen is they're struggling more, so they should spend more time delving further deep into it, but it creates a resentment loop almost, right,
Yeah.
where it's like you do
Yeah.
poorly, you're stressed out, and then you stare at something for longer, and then you do poorly again because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not you're not really studying at that point, you're just angry and upset. And that same thing applies to like math or history or science, whatever you're learning in high school, right? And it's very difficult because I feel like school is very easily a space for interest and creativity to die as opposed to grow, which is what it should be doing. Because
Right.
what you should ideally have at the end of your 12 years of school is a feeling of infinite possibility, a feeling where you can learn whatever you want to learn simply because you're interested. You shouldn't feel pigeonholed or
Yeah.
demoralized, and I don't think that that is the ultimate result of school now. I think that it works for a lot of people, but there are those that very clearly fall to the wayside because of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I guess my question would be like, so I agree, like I think school can be very demoralizing, but
mhm.
um I guess I don't agree. It feels like a pigeonhole. Are you saying you're pigeonholed in the sense that you feel very forced to go to college and do like an academic route,
Mm,
or like where's
right,
the
right. So there are a couple avenues that that could apply to, right? You feel like you're pigeonholed within, maybe, I think this actually extends to college on that front, where it's like you start college, right? Now you're stuck in your major, right? Depending on your school, if you're doing a very technical major, which to me personally, I feel like the technical majors are the way to go if you want, like, say, the best monetary bang for your buck, like reinvestment wise. That's just my personal opinion. And
yeah,
but I do think that a lot of schools now have a lack of focus on the humanities as well, which is also a
which is
problem. Um,
problematic in its own
yes.
right. Yeah,
So that in and of itself is pigeonholing because you're either choosing between a more creative aspect or a more, say, scientific route, right? And that's not the case for all schools. I feel like there are liberal arts schools that, even if you choose a more technical um, avenue, right? Say if you choose computer science or like biology
hmm,
or whatever, you still have to take a lot of foundational courses. And that's true in a lot of schools, but the focus I feel like is different now, especially where it's like you chose your major, so that's what you're doing. But also, I feel like um, if you're in a space for 12 years, right, where you feel like you're doing poorly in very specific areas, perhaps you just needed an extra month or two to really solidify that understanding. Maybe you needed an extra week, an extra hour, and or maybe you just didn't have time at home due to certain circumstances or whatever. You had other responsibilities, and as a
yeah,
result, you feel like you can't go down certain paths because you know or have solidified in your brain that they lead down to failure at a very clear, like you've repeated the experiment for 12 years. Every science class you take, you just don't have enough time to grasp that material. And
sure,
perhaps there is still that very slim desire to learn that, but you've essentially squashed it with fear essentially. So then you feel pigeonholed. right? So I feel like those two examples are what I feel that applies to. Um, Also, what I will say is the other aspect of it, right? And I'm curious to know what you would think about this, Larkin, and Alex as well. Say you're doing very well in school, right? And you know how you're doing well because of your grades, right? And then all of a sudden you go into a college environment where maybe your parents aren't asking about your grades as much, or like it's not as it's not as clear as to who you're answering to and stuff like that, right? In terms of, oh, I just need this grade. Say even you go through college and you're able to do that, um, what happens afterwards? Where it's like you're not getting grades really anymore. It's not all about that. It's about a continuous, perpetual like thing where you're at work. So I am
Yeah.
curious if you felt that that's been awkward, or like it's a strange thing
Yeah.
to think about post high school or even post college.
Yeah. I think. Hmm. For me personally, I mean, I don't know. Grades were such a easy measure of success
Hmm.
or like progress. Success isn't the right word. Success is like bad connotation too.
Right.
Progress.
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 Yeah.
We're such an easy measure of progress. For like most of our life
Hmm.
so far. And so now being in a job is very different. But yeah, I think it largely comes down to how you like process and organize your goals. Like for if some people are more goal minded than others, and some people
Right.
are more certain about what types of goals they want to pursue and how much they value those goals. And if you aren't one of those people, which is not a bad thing, by the way, like some people are more experience focused
Hmm.
than goal focused, um, and so they prefer to dab at many different pools. Um, but yeah, so if you're more experience focused, um, high school sort of presents that goal oriented track for you, so you don't have to think about it. And college, I guess, kind of.
Right.
But then afterwards, you can come to this situation where you're sort of uh, stuck without a way forward. And honestly, even I've even felt that a little bit. Although I consider myself like a very goal focused like person, but
Hmm.
um, where some of like the like obvious next goal of like this is gonna sound very base, like in our society, like make a lot of money, like
Right.
woo, or like have a family, whatever, die.
That's your
The,
goal.
the the
That's the
natural
final
pathway
goal.
forward. Yeah, the natural pathway forward. Anyway, like okay, these things may be fulfilling in the long term. Not
Mhm.
saying they aren't. Right? Wait, except for the death thing. Hold on, I'll back it up. Back it up. That was a joke. That was a joke. Anyway, yeah, yeah. But no, no. Okay,
Hey, you
so
never know.
like having a good career, making a bunch of money, and having a good family and whatnot, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. Like all these classic goals are very nice, but um, I don't know, dude. Like at least in the short term, like these are not like these are not like the main targets,
Right.
and it's like yeah, setting your own goals is super difficult. Something I struggle with a lot. I find myself like um overthinking my goals, thinking about whether I'm wasting my time, whatever. It can get, like
Mhm.
the loop, the loop can get very toxic, and I feel like we don't have that at all in high school, for example, and in college to some extent as well. Like in college, you have to start thinking about a career, and then
Yeah.
things can get doubtful. But in high school, you know, like I was very focused on my grades, and that was like a very like a north star. Like, okay, like is school going well? Yes. Okay, things are going great, and I'm in a good mood. Is school not going well? Ah, shit, bro. You useless piece of trash. Anyway, like, so that was basically it. Now there's like there isn't an obvious way forward. I can work hard at my job or whatever and slowly make that progression, but sometimes you start doubting like, is this the right thing to do? Like, there's so many options. Like, am I wasting my time?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, the doubt starts to creep in. I think that's the biggest difference between having like grades as like a guiding point forward or just education in general and then not
Yeah.
is like with those options comes a lot of doubt for me personally. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, because grades are like just such a constant you have for like pretty much the entirety of your life up to this point.
Hmm.
It's the one thing that was constant. It's like always got to try to make sure I have a good grade, and then it's just like pulled out from under you, and it's like you kind of just left like like floating in space with
Yeah.
with no clear objective on where to go. So yeah, you definitely can get filled with a lot of self doubt very easily. It was very toxic, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, do you think that in college grades were as important to you as in high school, or do you think there was a shift there at all?
Um, do I think grades were as important to me in college? I don't think they were. I think I more so just became concerned about at least just passing.
Right.
Like a lot of the, because like pretty much my entire you know elementary school, middle school, high school education, I was always in like the class for gifted students.
Hmm.
So like I was always just getting like I was just like without putting much effort in, always getting like 90, 95, 100. I was like, okay, you know what, no problem. But then once you get to college, it's like that those everybody's one of those gifted students.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you realize it's like you're not so gifted as they may have led you to believe. Everybody, you're just like on the same playing field at that point. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I know I'm not a nerd. It's like most of these people are probably smarter than me.
Hmm.
I just need to pass this class. So a lot of
Yeah.
the time, it feels like the grades, like at least like the threshold for what grade I was willing to be acceptable,
Hmm.
definitely was not as important. Like definitely like middle school, high school. I was like, if I got like an 80 on something, I was like, my my life falls apart in that moment. I was like, what am I
Right.
doing? I basically just failed. But then like in college, if I get like like a 75, I'm like, oh thank God. That's I was expecting way worse now. That's the highest grade I could have even gotten. So it's like
That's
definitely
true.
like your perspective. I feel like shifts, especially like when you're like I said in the scenario of my own, where it's like they're always in the gifted students or like the honors classes, the honors this, honors that, and then like college, it's like everybody because like when you go to your school, it's just like your local area. But then,
Right.
like, as you're gonna go to college, it's like you're competing, like, with, like, where we're going to Stony Brook, you're competing with, like, the whole state. And then, like, when you're getting a job, you're competing, like, with the whole country, the whole world, if it's, like, remote or something. So, you're like, the playing field keeps, like, you have to keep
Right.
advancing with your playing field.
Hmm.
You can't really get, like, complacent. Because at each step, like, you think they say you're gifted, but, like, with each step, you realize, like, I'm not really as gifted. I'm maybe gifted in, like, my school of like 500 people.
Right.
In terms of the global scheme of things, I'm just like another average person.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to because it's also like, yes, you could be like, say, the top 10% in your school, right?
Yeah,
um and that's fine, and then you go to a school where everyone was the top 10% in that
yeah,
school.
exactly. And then you
um
realize, oh wait, maybe I'm in out, and then you go to like being like the bottom 90%, and you're
right.
like, wow. And
Yeah.
that's really like a real shock to your core because like at that point you get like so complacent. You're like, nothing can stop me. I'm the top 10%, and then you go to like you said, a school like that, and then you're like the bottom 90%, and it's just a complete like whole like culture shock because you're like,
Yeah.
I thought I was like the smartest guy around. What happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And it's like you have to like actually fight to get a good grade, and it's not something that's not something they really prepare you for. Like a lot of those like honors classes and stuff, they just expect you to be like good grades. They don't really like prepare you for like a real world scenario where it's actually like supposed to be like competitive. It feels like those honors classes are very just like a very like coast
Yeah.
type of thing. Like it's just like you're all smart, so you just all get good grades. There's no like a competitive like experience like in like things like a job search, for example, where it becomes very
Right.
competitive. There's a lot of people probably better than you, a lot of people probably worse than you. You need to do something to make yourself stand out. They don't really teach that, especially in like honors classes. I feel like.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's also a difference in the mentality of like the university versus the school system, where the
Uh
school
huh.
system is more like the K through 12 school system is more,
Mm-hmm.
it's trying to get you to have good grades, right? There's a very clear focus on that. But then when you shift over to college, it's like, well, you're an adult.
Yeah.
You should be able to get the good grades if you do the work. That's your
Mm-hmm.
problem now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just handed off to you. I think
Yep.
there's also a question of rigor, right? If you're not used to the rigor of the college environment, I think that things like honors and AP prep you more than that a little bit than like the regular courses that you'd have in high school. However,
Mm-hmm.
I do still think that the speed with which you learn is like highly dependent on the course that you just happen to have sat down in, right? So for
Yeah.
example, the only course that I would even compare to a like really an interestingly like a moderately difficult college course is BC Calc. That's the only one. I didn't take chemistry, so chemistry is
I was
probably
just
gonna
gonna
fall
say
in there
AP
too.
Chem
Yeah,
maybe.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't take chemistry in college
Yeah.
either. I
Um,
took earth science because I
yeah.
needed science credit, so I just had 2 semesters of high school level earth
Right.
science. I called it a day.
But some people need a more rigorous training to keep themselves engaged and at that level. So that
Mhm.
say if you were say if you're a car, right? You're at like the first gear for most of your life, right? But really you should be running a range of gears. You should be at the max gear every once in a while, right? But you don't really get that because your high school teacher or your middle school or elementary school teachers also have to deal with 20 other kids that maybe in that specific course they won't be able to handle that higher gear of speed or of intensity or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
now the problem is, well, the car metaphor falls apart, but like now your brain isn't necessarily used to going at the top tier for extended periods of time. And I think especially in college, you now have to navigate that yourself. I think it's better to be using more of your brain capacity at an earlier age so that you know how much effort you really need to put into things. I think it
Uh-huh.
also creates more discipline and also just a better understanding of yourself and your own capacities, and how you need to learn and stuff like that. But I think that like this is another issue where I'm like I don't know what the solution is because the only thing I could think of is the old school you have a mentor, you're an apprentice relationship where it's like the speed with which you learn is essentially just what it is for you. And it's like
Right. Right.
that's not as feasible today because you don't have 1,000 mentors for everything, that will be able to teach 1,000 students and just have that one student or three students or whatever. It's just not as practical because first off there aren't as many people that are teachers, and it's a difficult thing to navigate where it's like how do you make sure your students are engaged, because that's yet another thing where it's like yes there's the lack of interest in classes, but then there's also like the inability to be creative with your intellectual pursuits in high school, right? Where it's like you're focused on what they're telling you to be focused on. For example, like if you are in a history class and you hear something that's very cool, but it's such a minute part of the class, you can't delve deeper there because you have other things to learn, right? And then on top of that, it's like maybe maybe you need to spend more time on something or speed up the rate with which you're learning something, or maybe your teacher needs to reorient how you're approaching a certain problem. They don't have that ability to just focus on you and change the rate at which you're learning because they're focused on so many people. And it's what is the solution there, right? I don't see one, which is very frustrating as someone who's like this. There should be something to fix here. Um, yeah. Also, the amount of this that's also tied into like politics, bureaucracy, all of that. It's like
Sure. Sure.
it's frustrating because it's like these should be simpler solutions. Similarly, it's like how much are how much is a teacher allowed to teach before it becomes beyond the scope of what they've been placed there for, right? So for example, like we've had our physics teacher in what was it, 10th grade, no 11th grade. He I would say he was more personal with students, like he very clearly cared about how
Sure.
students were
Sure.
doing. And I think he did a great job with that. And then there's another step beyond that where you start teaching them your own opinions and thoughts and stuff like that, where it's like,
Mhm.
when do you allow that? When do you not allow that? That's not really something that he did, but that's also another avenue where I'm like, when is
Yeah.
that
It's sort of
allowed?
the next step up.
Yes.
Mm.
Um, it's a strange place to
Yeah.
navigate. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine like, I mean, I never took like a political science class,
Hmm.
but I think like I imagine if you stepped foot in a political science classroom, like the month after Trump got elected in 2016, I bet you would get some wild opinions from
Yeah.
some of the teachers or professors or whatever, and like
Right. Because I mean, I
You
remember.
know that's a whole other like
Yeah.
ethical question of like, you know,
Do you tell them about
should
your
like
opinions, your personal
yeah,
opinions, your personal
should
life?
teachers be presenting their personal beliefs
Yes.
in education? You know, it's hard to say, but I don't know.
Because
I
like
don't know. I
if
feel
you
like I
I
were
lean
it's
if
hard
towards
to say.
no on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is though,
Like,
like if you were Socrates, that's exactly what you did, right?
Right,
Like that's
exactly.
what
Yeah, like
that's what happened for generations upon generations. That's what it was,
yeah,
right? You'd get a
yeah, like
tutor that would teach you everything that you needed to know.
yeah,
I will say the current modern education system has made education more accessible than it has ever been, right? 100%. Because
for
previously
sure.
it'd be like you need to be able to pay for a private tutor for your son or daughter. That's the only way that you would
Right.
really learn all these things, right? You'd have an expert and they would teach you. But now it's like you have someone who's teaching you a wide breadth of things, or you have many different teachers teaching you a wide area of things where they're very knowledgeable about, and there is a trade-off there, right? Because you're not the relationship with the teacher isn't as, I guess, intimate on some level, right? Because you get new teachers every year for the most part, so it's very rare to have that teacher that's going to take that extra step, right? Then on top of that, it's like it's very difficult for, say, a parent to be like, yes, you are allowed to teach your personal philosophies to my child, right? Because what happens if those opinions clash or aren't in alignment, right? Then there's a huge disconnect there between the generations, like your parents and your kids, and very clearly you can point fingers at a teacher at that point. So it's very convoluted.
Yeah, it's very controversial. I
Yes.
think.
Um,
Yeah, and it will continue to be. I think it's definitely
yeah.
like something in the public eye at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. Like, it seems. I don't know. It's it's one of those things. Like, you know, education is required,
Hmm.
but at the uh, uh, it's like there are very few sources of like I don't know what you'd say like media or like sources of information that are required to be absorbed
Yeah.
in life and sort of you know that those first few years of education are one of those very rare sources where you know having something like that is a necessity for all people and so I can see like where typically we want to allow for open public discourse and allow people to speak their mind. I could see that because of the element of necessity that's in like at least like yeah K through 12 education. Um, yeah, I could see there being a good argument for there being like significant restrictions on what could be said. But again, of course, if the teachers aren't invested in what they're teaching,
Hmm.
kids aren't going to be invested in what they're learning. It's going to feel very unauthentic, and of course they're going
Right.
to pick up on that. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like we're back at square one. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't.
School's a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's the teacher's fault either. Like there are some
Oh no,
teachers
of
no,
that
course not. Of
probably
course
no, no,
not.
shouldn't
no.
shouldn't be teachers, right? Because they just don't care about children at all.
Yeah, there
But
are bad teachers, but most of the time it's not their fault.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's like the bureaucracy problems where it's like they can't talk about certain things or teach the way that they want to teach. Um, and even then, like how do you blame the people above them necessarily, because it's like they're trying their best to navigate the situation as best they see as well. So it's like I don't think it's anyone's, it's not like you can point fingers at this group of people, be like, oh, it's your fault that education is like the
No,
way
of
that it
course
is.
not.
Because even the statement like education sucks is, it's, that's ignorant on a wild degree, but also it's disingenuous to the complexity of the issue as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and I guess, I mean, obviously me saying that 95% of yeah, I guess, you know, now that
Yeah,
we've been
that's
talking
rich
about it,
coming from you,
yeah.
Alberta.
But like that's also like I feel
Yeah,
like my opinion on that has been very clear for like I think probably since high school, where I'm like I don't
sure,
understand a
sure,
lot of
yeah,
this. So like I have a very strong opinion about it, but I also
yeah,
understand that there's a lot more nuance. I think it is a better system that we've probably had ever. but I definitely think that there are very clear issues within it where I don't understand why they're there. I think the biggest thing is the lack of economic understanding.
Just gonna
That
say,
that
that seems
is
like the easiest thing
yeah.
that they could change, like, right now without having to make some sort of fundamental flip in how the education system works. 'Cause, like, the easiest thing they could do is, like, make, like, several years of required economics classes, not like that 1 half semester garbage you have to take
Yes.
senior year.
Yeah.
Like, make several years of required education, economics education. Really tie it in really tied in with, like, core economics principles that everyone has to know, like things like credit and whatnot, and, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
um,
also you could tie that into a
yeah.
wide variety of different subjects. You tie it into math, you tie it
Sure.
into
Yeah,
history
man.
very easily. Like
I think a whole
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
go ahead, Alex.
I think a whole nother part of this too is, I mean, obviously we could, now that we're like, 5 years removed from high school, we look back down and be like, I wish they taught us this. I wish they taught us economics. I wish I took the step. But you got to think like in the mindset of a high schooler is that like most time people don't care. They don't pay attention. Like, is teaching is like getting like
Right.
we might say now like I wish I got that economics classes back then.
Mhm.
But like in high school, you would not. You're like only still like a kid, so you're ignorant. So you'd be like, "What is this? This is irrelevant. This is like not important to me," and just not pay
Right.
attention. And then therefore, this
True,
whole conversation is like null and void. I feel like we're
true,
looking
yeah.
at it as like a perspective as adults now looking back, but we got to look at it as like if I was actually still in high school, would I actively be paying attention, or would it be like like most people who just don't care about like their Spanish class or their math class and be like, I'm not, I don't care. I'm just gonna like look up the answers for the homework. I'm just gonna
Mhm.
do this. Like I
That
think that's a
is
perspective that you need to analyze as well.
Yeah, that is a very fair criticism because I do remember my economics class. I barely paid attention to that. No disrespect to Marco Tulio. Like
Uh-huh.
I really like Marco. He was
Oh,
a great
man.
guy. He was our Model UN teacher as well. Like he was in charge of that club. However, I know, like, to be fair, I was not interested in economics in high school, but also perhaps that was an exposure issue, right? We only got one semester of that, and I was
And
more, it was senior
barely.
year. It was senior year
Yeah.
too, right? So we were like, why are we here? I want to graduate. I want
Yeah,
another
yeah.
free. That's what I was thinking about, at least.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
and I think that is an element there. What I will say is one way to potentially alleviate that is once you're in high school, a lot of people have jobs, right? They're doing part-time work, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone, but like there are students that are doing that. So you teach them about, things like how part-time work affects taxes, or you even talk to them about like what their parents' taxes, how they're impacted by their income if they
Right.
are at all, or like how their existence impacts their parents on an economic front and things like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tie it into how it actually impacts their life, and a student will pay much more attention. Like flat out.
Right.
That is, I think that's like the 101 basic thing that has been lost in a lot of the education system, where it's like you just got to tell someone why it's important. That's all you got to
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
there have been a multitude of instances in high school. I think it's less so when you're in an AP or honors course because a lot of those students are just trying to get that good grade and they're thinking about
Mhm.
college and all of that. They're not thinking about like fundamentally why is this important because their goal is college. That's what they're thinking about, right? But you still
Right,
have those
right.
questions of why do I need to know this? Why is this
Mhm.
important?
Yeah. Mhm.
And teachers don't have an answer to that question typically because they're also
Right,
like
right. Because frankly, on an item-to-item basis, they don't. Right.
yes, and also like I will say certain classes like you have an impact they have history, right? Let's go with history, right? It's hard to explain the importance of history to someone who's already decided that's not important, right? Because the importance of history is like understanding the past will also help you review the trends of the now and be able to create more sophisticated conclusions about what's actually going on around you. That's a very difficult thing to say to someone who hasn't lived a lot of life yet.
Yeah. Right.
But also to some degree, um, if you're talking about, say, certain courses, right? Professors or even students, right? You go to college to learn certain courses to teach that course, and it's like that is a useless avenue, right?
Mhm.
Because it has no extra utility beyond teaching that utility to other people, right?
Right.
Um,
Okay. I
there
kind
are
of
there are certain fields
see what you're
where
saying.
I'm
Okay.
definitely not explaining it well enough, but there are certain things where I'm
But,
like, you
yeah.
study it and there's very little to no utility behind it, where it's like, how do you then explain
I know what you mean. Like,
that?
you study, like, ancient Greek literature
Right.
with
Well,
hopes of becoming an ancient Greek literature professor.
yes. I think
Like,
I think
yeah,
if you have a goal
like,
beyond that, right?
right.
Beyond you're learning this to then teach it to someone else, that's important. I think that at that point it becomes important. Maybe it's just important to a small select group of people, but then it has utility, right? And you can still explain that to other people. They can disagree with it at that point. But if it's just to teach it to other people, it's very difficult to say that it's truly important. I think there are
Yeah.
fundamental subjects, right? Where math
Yeah,
and English to me specifically, I'm like, those will always have utility. Those are
of
always
course.
very, very obviously evident, right? And English extends to just language in general, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All language courses and mathematics, I'm like, those are the two biggest pillars. And then like history and science build off of those very clearly as well. So those are like one level up, I guess, in the structure that you're building. But math and English, those are the foundational pillars. So you can explain those very easily. But there are certain subsets when you're learning in high school where you're just like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I forgot where I was going with this point. What were we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking. I'm just saying, Albert, your mic keeps cutting out a bit.
Yeah, I
I
was
don't
gonna.
know.
Oh, does
No,
it?
I didn't know if we're just me.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
unfortunate.
like every like once in a while, yeah, it cuts
Okay.
out for just like a second or two.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's like a loose cable or something,
Oh, it might be. Let me see. I will check 1 second.
but yeah. Mm. Let's wait for Albert to come back here, but
Yeah. How have you been, Larkin?
I've been good. A nice Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Got to drove up, saw my grandparents.
That's nice.
Yeah, saw a bunch of friends
My
from
Thanksgiving was
college.
canceled because my mom was sick.
Oh damn!
Yeah.
Just generally sick or COVID or what?
No, just she had some sinus thing going on. That wasn't COVID
Damn.
though. But,
Okay.
You
Yeah,
got
that's
sick?
unfortunate.
yeah, my mom did.
Oh,
But I had to
okay.
cancel my Thanksgiving plans.
Oh, that's
But,
unfortunate. Did you guys do
Yeah.
anything at home then, or no?
yeah, it was just me, my mom, and my dad. My brother was out with his girlfriend and her family
Mm-hmm.
for the day.
Okay.
So we didn't do anything. So it was just me, my mom, and my dad. Helped my mom cook a little bit of stuff since she wasn't feeling good. We had like ham and cornbread and stuff still. So it was still nice. It was just
Gotcha.
and not like that many. It was just gonna be like my grandparents really coming anyway. So it's not like it was a
Okay.
big difference, but
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
Are you guys excited to now be in December? Also, viewers, I don't know if this is coming out in December, but that's when we're recording it.
oh my
I mean, yeah, we're
god.
recording it December 3rd. My mom got me. I don't know if you can see it right here. The
Oh,
advent
your
calendar
advent
sitting up
calendar?
there.
Nice. What type of
Oh, is
advent
that what?
calendar is it?
Dude, dude, I thought that was the Connect 4 game. You know what I'm talking about?
No, that's an advent
Look,
calendar.
it's
Wait, hold on, let me
yellow.
go
It's got
grab
like
it.
circles. Dude.
Hold on.
Oh my
That's
god.
really funny.
Oh man, that's funny. That's actually hilarious.
Oh, is it Star Wars? I think it's Star Wars. Yeah.
I mean, I know on the audio version, people won't be able to see, but it's like whatever this is, Star
It's a
Wars,
Star Wars
Oh,
one.
Star Wars Funko thing. I don't know.
Ooh, very
Well,
cool.
like each day is I guess a little Funko.
Nice.
something.
okay, yeah.
So the
Very
first
cool.
day was this little R2D2 with the antlers.
Oh, that's
Christmas,
nice.
Star Wars Christmas themed.
Yeah.
And then it was Darth Maul, Darth Maul
As a
snowman,
snowman. Oh, that's
and
wow.
like Christmas colored Boba Fett was
Nice.
today's. Well, there you go. Yeah, no, not Connect 4, unfortunately. I don't have just a
Damn.
Connect 4 game on display in the background.
I was wondering. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I hate the cold, though, I do at least enjoy December because of the holidays. But
Mhm.
like, I do hate the
yeah.
cold. I do definitely prefer the summer to the winter. I know that's like a controversial take. I feel like most
I'm
people
with
prefer
you.
the
I'm
winter.
with you. I'm with you for sure.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to have to shovel my car. I don't have a scraper.
yeah.
I was telling Larkin about this before we started. I don't have a scraper yet, and I ordered it on Sunday. When I realized it was going to snow this week, and
Oh, it's gonna snow by you this week.
oh, it's been snowing. My
Oh, it's been snowing.
car is covered in snow, and I
Oh,
can't drive
well.
anywhere because I don't have a scraper.
Well, at
So
least you work from home, I guess.
that's true, but I need food. I need to go get food this weekend.
No, you don't. Not on point.
Luckily I still have like fruits. I got a bunch of fruits when I first got here.
Mhm.
I'm out of avocado as of this morning now. So, but I have some fruits. I have some rotisserie chicken chopped up and everything. Got a little bit of soup left, so I'm still good. For for the weekend, but
When was the scraper supposed to come?
on Thursday. This Thursday, it's coming up next
Um,
Thursday, so it's kind
well,
of a
next
problem.
Thursday.
Yeah, that's why I'm
That is
like,
kind of a problem.
yeah, that's why I'm like, why is it taking 2 weeks? I got this on Prime, like it's on Amazon Prime.
I feel
Why
like
is
if I
this
should just
happening?
went. I feel like if I should just went to the store by you
Oh
before the
no,
snow and
you're
just bought
right.
one.
You're right. I didn't realize that this was coming in another week, so I don't know what's going on there. I was like, I would have otherwise selected a different scraper if I thought it would be this long
Mhm.
to wait for it, but it is
Well,
what it is.
what can you do?
I feel like there's probably a lot of delays because people are getting all of their Black Friday sales and everything.
Probably. It's gonna
Yeah.
slow down a little bit.
Yeah, because I still have some
They
Black
probably
Friday stuff coming
prioritize
in.
like the Black Friday gifts
Yeah,
over like your snow scraper.
that's true.
Right.
Um,
Tragic.
yeah,
Tragic.
there was black ice
Like,
though the other day, so I'm glad
Fun.
I shouldn't have bothered to step outside that day anyway. Because I stepped outside, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to go to the store because I had used like my gloves to wipe down my car
Your
earlier
car.
in the day, and
Yep.
I was like, oh, this looks pretty much fine. And I sat down in my car after like nearly slipping 100 times down this hill, and sat down in my car and then looked at the windshield, and I was like, it is covered in ice. Can't see
Well,
anything.
yeah.
you don't got a
So,
scraper. So you
yeah.
had to put like the defroster on and then sit there for like an hour.
No,
Wait for the ice to
I went back
defrost.
into my apartment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You could do that too, I guess. That is
Yeah.
also an option in this scenario.
I was looking for I was going to go get some cheese cuz I realized I didn't have any cheese. I needed it for my pizzas that I was making.
Yep.
And I already had the dough all ready. I had some pizza sauce. I had all my toppings, right? I just didn't have any cheese cuz I didn't think
Did
about
you eat
this.
Jesus pizza?
Yeah, so I had cheeseless pizza. I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'll do
I feel like you're
this.
missing one of the three key ingredients here.
I mean, you could have pizza without cheese? Question mark. Now, I did it. I did it. So
Okay.
No, you cannot.
No.
it would have
Yeah.
been much better if it had cheese. I
No.
will say
That's just like tomato bread.
that.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just like you
Ugh,
bake the bread with put tomato sauce on it. Like,
That's true. That's true.
that's messed up, man. That's messed up.
Well, I didn't want to leave the dough sitting out for a few days because it had already
could
like
you just
Yeah.
put it on the
risen.
defroster in the car?
What?
Why'd you not? You could just use the defroster for the car to melt the ice off the
I
windows.
don't know what that is, man.
You don't know how the defroster works in your car?
Do you mean just turning on the heat and like pointing?
No,
it
I
towards
mean the
my-
defroster, like where they have it like
No, no,
pointed
no,
at the
no.
windows.
Yeah,
Larkin,
there's
you know
like
what I'm
a
talking about, right?
yeah. There are little heat vents at the front of the car, like by the window,
Oh, you just
and when you
yeah,
turn on
yeah,
the
okay. I know what
defroster,
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
this
I
is meant to
didn't
defrost the glass.
right. I didn't
Yeah.
know how quickly that would work. I just think of those as a different mode on the heat because you just change which location. the heat's going
Yeah,
into.
yeah. It's kind of an option.
I didn't know those were called defrosters for your windshield. I guess that makes sense. But
Yeah.
I also had ice on the back, right? So I couldn't see behind me, and I had to reverse to
Do
get out.
you not have a back window defroster? I know some cars have those too.
I don't
back
think
window.
so. I didn't check, to be honest.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I just went back inside. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I already almost slipped 100 times, so I just went back to my building. Because
Fun.
earlier that day I already had to walk over to my leasing office to pick up my stuff. That was shipped there because we have like some lockers and stuff. I'm
Yep.
really glad that they brought my piano to my apartment because I would not have been able to carry that by myself.
Yeah.
So
That's
Oh,
good.
it's heavy.
it was 3 very large boxes, like large.
Oh, I see.
boxes.
Yeah.
Because I have an 88 key piano, right? So
Mhm.
it's a long piano. It's
Right,
longer
right.
than the desk that I'm sitting at right now. You can actually rotate to it. It's very long.
Oh, awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
it
Nice.
looks really
Right by the
nice.
window
Yeah.
too. Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the pedals came in a different box, and then also the stand came in a different box as well. So that was
Sure,
three
sure, sure.
boxes. I just got another box this morning, which I think is the bench for it. So
That's sick. That's awesome.
yeah, because of that, a lot of heavy objects. Prior to that, I had to go and pick up a very large box from the leasing office, and it turned out that the box just had two smaller boxes inside. So I was dragging this to my car earlier that day for no reason. I could have just opened it up and taken out
Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
smaller boxes and made my life a lot easier. One of
Uh-huh.
them
Yep, yep, yep.
was, I think it was this shelf that's right behind me. Um, and then the
I did notice
other,
the shelf.
yeah, it's a new shelf. I got two new
Yeah.
shelves, so I got these two.
Yeah.
Um,
No longer just a blank white wall behind you.
yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah, looks
Yeah.
looks
You got some
good.
background objects now, yeah.
Yeah, I do still want to get a poster, maybe a poster or two, but I'm debating whether or not I still want to get a Infinity War poster, just because I'm kind of feeling like I might just step away from Marvel for a bit.
I don't blame you.
It's just
Yep.
I still have an inkling in my mind to see the new Ant-Man movie.
Mhm.
Like that's the only thing that I am thinking about.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the holiday special for
I haven't watched
Guardians,
it yet either.
and
I'm probably gonna do that tonight with my dad.
I'll enjoy it. I know, but I'm like, I don't want to sit in my apartment alone watching this special. To be honest, maybe
At
I'll
least
watch
at
it
least
when
I have
I'm
my
home.
dad.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch it
Yeah, I
when
watch
I'm
it with
home.
my dad.
Make my sister watch it with me or something. I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
yeah. So I'm kind of just like burnt out from Marvel at this point because they're
I don't blame
putting
you. It
out
was
so
Phase
much,
4 was incredibly mid.
incredibly mid and too much.
Yeah, way too much content.
It
Way too
was
much.
it was like a funnel of mid tier content.
Yeah. Like I keep saying, quantity over quality for sure
Yeah,
on that one.
but yeah. Anyway, because of that, I'm very grateful that things were brought to my place as opposed to the leasing office, just because the items were too heavy. I'm on the third floor too, so it would be
Yeah.
so difficult.
Do you have an elevator at least in your building, or is it just
No,
stairs?
it's just
Oh,
stairs
well.
because on this side of the country, and I think it might just be a difference between northeast and like, I don't know. I think Texas also has this thing where the staircases are all outside. So you have outdoor staircases.
Oh,
You don't have
yeah.
internal hallways. You have staircases
Huh.
upstairs leading up to your floor, and then
Yeah,
you
it's all
just have,
outdoors. The only actual inside part is your apartment, right? Like if you
yes,
open the door to your apartment, it'd be outside. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, which is strange. It's so strange to think about.
That is interesting.
Also, the buildings
Yeah, I don't
aren't
know why they.
nearly as
I don't know why
tall.
they build them like that.
Yeah. The buildings also aren't nearly as tall. I don't know why exactly. Maybe that's like an earthquake related thing, but I don't know if there are
Could be.
earthquakes here. I have no idea.
I mean,
Um,
I know, like more like Southern California have the San Andreas fault, but I don't know if that like
right.
you get like shocks up by you. I think the
We get
closest you probably
smoke. We
get
get
is
smoke from the fires here.
yeah the
Oh
wildfires. I was gonna say too.
Yeah.
wow.
I know don't you have like there's like the
Huh.
volcanoes up there too in the
Yeah.
northwest.
Yeah, there have been issues. There have been days where the air quality has been worse because of the
Because of the
Interesting.
smoke.
fire from the
The
wildfires.
smoke's all coming up here.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Which is strange. I didn't know that
Yeah.
was a thing either until I saw
What
it
are you
on my
supposed to do
phone.
about that in that scenario? Like if
You
you have to
just
go
don't
outside,
you
like
just don't spend as much time outside, to be honest. Like it's not that bad usually, but there are days
do they like, have like mask advisories? Like if it's like the smoke is really
no.
bad or like.
I think it's just the idea is you stay indoors if you can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, Albert, have you ever seen those images of I think it was Oregon like a few years ago, maybe two
Mm,
years ago, during these wildfires where like the sky is just like beat red.
I have not. No, that I
No,
haven't
so
seen
I'm gonna
that
send you it.
here.
I'm gonna send you that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't. I haven't. It hasn't been too bad. It's just you can notice in your breath
Yeah.
Right, 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 right,
that it
right.
like
Mhm.
smells slightly different. I guess.
Does it become like hard to
Yeah.
breathe after a while? Like you're ready to like go back
Um,
inside? Like
I haven't spent too much time outside on those days, and I don't know
uh
if it's gonna continue in the winter because I haven't had anything maybe in over a month where it was like this.
yeah.
So
It's usually like a late summer autumn thing. I feel like the
yeah,
wildfires.
that's true. Yeah, but how
Mm.
do those even get started? Is it like an idiot outside, or is it just the heat?
Sometimes it's an idiot. Sometimes it's just like, you know, like a stray like lightning bolt or something, because especially now too,
Okay.
with the water crisis you got there on the West Coast, everything's just way drier than
Right. That
it
normal.
normally is. So like anything can anything could like start a fire, any little spark. Because it's just
Gotcha.
like all untamed wilderness out there. You have like one little spark in the middle of nowhere where nobody lives.
Right.
The next thing you know, it just keeps spreading and spreading until people actually notice that the
makes
whole
sense.
forest is on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and fires used to be. I mean, thousands of years ago, before humans had settled the whole area, right?
Right.
And tried to control the wildfires. I mean, wildfires used to be relatively common, so there would be a buildup of, like, relatively young trees,
Mm-hmm.
that would and controlled burns would happen, that weren't too significant, but because humans try to suppress these wildfires for obvious reasons,
Right.
then when one does inevitably break out, there's so much more dry, dead timber to
That
burn,
too.
that it's
Also, global
much
warming is not helping that at all
heavier.
either.
Yeah, yeah, and hotter temperatures
They're just
won't
going to
help
become
either.
bigger and worse and more
Yeah.
often.
You know what's
Mhm.
strange? It's not gonna. It's probably not gonna snow in New York this December. It hasn't been for a few years now, but it was snowing. I think it was snowing in
I don't think I just got snow
Texas.
not that long ago.
It did it snow in New York?
It did.
Not this year. I think like a year or two ago. I remember I think of it now. It was last winter. I remember because I
No,
remember
it's
this is one night
no
when I was
a couple
one
times.
night when I was up all night playing a game.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, because my sleep schedule was completely messed up.
Right.
Like I wasn't tired until like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
and I was getting ready to go to bed. But then my dad saw that I was up and he
Mhm.
was getting ready to work. He's like, "You gotta go outside and shovel." And I was like, "I just want to sleep now. I've been up all night."
Right.
He must have thought like I just woke up or something.
Was that 2 years
But
ago
like
then? Because
no, that was this is this year.
was that
That was
over
in
break?
like
Was that
January.
over a break? Oh,
Yeah, it was over
January.
break. It was like in
Yeah,
January.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like this, it used to snow in December. It doesn't snow in
Yeah,
December really
occasionally,
anymore.
yeah, occasionally.
Occasionally, I didn't remember it snowing. I remember one year, like when I was in elementary school, it snowed on Halloween, or like right before Halloween. I remember I was doing Halloween in the
Oh,
snow.
wow.
Right. Right.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've never seen that
It,
ever happen again. That was very unusual. It was way
yeah.
early for snow.
Like it always felt like there was more of a possibility of snow, at least in November. Like it
Right,
was
right, right.
slightly possible. It was rare, but it felt more possible. And then now it's like you maybe in December, like maybe, but like January is really when it starts.
January, February. I mean, also too, you can't remember. Winter doesn't even really start until December 21st anyway. So like, I feel like any snow before winter would be
Right.
considered early. I
That's
feel
true.
like January makes the most sense usually.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's
I
like
don't
the
know.
middle of winter.
I just feel like all of the seasons are like weird now.
No, that's
It's
just because of
strange.
global warming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I was like wearing shorts until like halfway through October. It finally got cold enough like halfway through October. I was like, okay,
It
the
was
shorts have to go
yeah,
away.
it was
It
very
was a
warm
very
this
warm
year, yeah.
fall. It
Right.
was like almost November, and I was still wearing shorts outside because it was like 70 degrees out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently here
No.
too, it was supposed to rain a lot more in the fall, and it didn't.
Yeah,
Which I'm
yeah,
like,
because
it's
it's
already
global warming.
raining quite a bit. I don't know what you mean by this is a very
Why
atypical.
that's why you have like a water crisis out there. The Lake Mead Reservoir is like, drying up out there.
Is it? How do you know
Yeah,
Uh,
this?
uh-oh.
because it's like always in the news about how I don't know if maybe it affects you. Maybe it's just more like California and like Arizona and stuff like the southern
Hmm.
West Coast.
Oh, maybe.
But, like their whole like main reservoirs have been drying up like forever now.
Mhm.
Like it's gotten to the point where like you can find like just by walking like along the shoreline, you'll see like sunken boats and like like
Hmm.
skeletons tied to like cinder blocks. Like unironically, somebody maybe died like 30 years ago, but now we didn't know until now because the water has just
Oh,
receded
you're
that much.
serious? I thought that was a joke.
No, I am serious. Oh no, that was not a joke. That's like serious.
Oh, okay.
People are finding like cinder
Interesting.
blocks and like stuff like at the bottom where the water used to be now,
Uh-huh.
along with like all the sunken ships and stuff.
Mhm.
Because there's just so little water left. It's like the shoreline is like what used to be like 30 feet under the water
Mhm.
or something. So
That's strange though.
crazy.
You would think that the shoreline would get closer inland if like the ice caps are melting, right? I guess that just depends on where in the
Well,
world
it
you are,
depends
right?
on anywhere you are. Just global warming just means like climate's more extreme in places. So like
Right.
in like the desert, it just means it'll become more deserty. So
Right.
you'll get like less rain than you get normally,
Yeah.
even less so. That's why like the reservoirs are drying up and stuff because just more extreme climate. It just hits the extremes more, where it's like
Mhm.
dry all the time. Like instead of being dry, 70% of the time, it's now dry like 85% of the year,
Mhm.
and it's
Huh.
like, well, not enough water to support the entire West Coast. Well,
Yeah.
that's why that's why people are like, how could global warming be real if it's snowing outside? It just like means you're just getting more intense snowstorms. It doesn't mean that it's just gonna be always warm. Like, it
Like
just means
it's
the
like
weather will
that.
get more extreme.
It's like that congressman who brought a snowball to the congressional
Yeah,
chamber.
yeah, I remember
You
that.
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
do
they're like,
remember that. That was
guys,
like a couple years
it's a
ago.
it's a
Like,
farce.
Yeah.
how is global warming real if I'm holding a snowball?
Oh my
Honestly, I think
god.
that's just I think that was a bad marketing statement to be like, oh, it's global warming as opposed to
Yeah,
climate
global.
change.
That's why they say climate change now,
Yes.
because they realize they messed up with the phrase global warming. Because
Yeah.
it's really just climate change.
But global warming, I feel like, is more direct.
Oh,
It
perhaps
more
it is, but
directly.
it's
Oh,
very
it is. I
easy
mean, it is.
to
The average
dismantle
temperature
on
has
the
gotten
surface level.
closer, but it's easy just to be like, if global warming is real, why is it cold outside?
Right. Right.
I
Like
see. I
Like it's
see.
very
Yeah.
that's why they try to use climate change as the term now.
yes. It's very easy to just be like, this is stupidly
Interesting.
named, therefore it's dumb. You
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting. Well,
But
climate
no, the
change to
world
me
is getting
sounds.
warmer
yeah.
overall.
Climate change to me sounds like more diffuse. There's not as much to grasp onto. Like, of course, the climate's changing. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the climate's always changing.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm still on the global warming train. I feel like climate change is kind of you know it's an easy way out. These dumb pieces of shit should figure out that the Earth is about a degree Celsius warmer than it was a century ago. It's not that complicated. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
like, you know. Anyway, I mean, I apologize. They're all lovely people. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I love global warming.
You enjoy global warming.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big
I like
global
the warm
warming
weather,
fan.
so bring it on. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. For real. Yeah.
Just
Uh,
buy a house that's like 10 miles
yeah,
inland, because in 50 years it'll be a nice beachfront property and you could sell it for
yeah.
profit.
That is true.
That's an investment right there.
That's the
Yes.
investment right there.
Yeah,
Creating
that's an
creating
investment
generational wealth,
opportunity.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Buy your house in the Arctic now. So it'll
Yeah.
it'll be a nice resort spot.
Go buy some land in Antarctica now.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
when it becomes a nice tropical paradise,
Dude,
you'll be able to sell that for money.
there's land under the ice in the
Yeah,
Antarctic.
I know.
Like a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Solid.
prime
We
resort
might lose,
location.
like a lot of shoreline, but hey, we can live in Antarctica then.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
So
We're gonna gain a whole
we're gonna
continent. Like,
get we're gonna get
what's
land back.
not to like? You know?
Mhm.
Oh my god. Anyway. Oh boy. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah. We won't be around for
we'll
that.
just
But
lose a few Coca-Cola drinking bears, polar bears in the process.
yeah.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola drinking. Oh my god. We're so corrupted. Oh man.
Are you telling me that's not their entire diet?
Dude,
What, Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola is I believe. Let me make sure I have this right. Yeah, Coca-Cola is the largest plastic polluter on the planet. Like,
Really?
they are part of the problem.
I
Anyway,
mean, so is the
um,
entire fashion industry. That's
yeah,
one
they
of the leading
yeah.
causes of pollution as well, right? Is it
Yeah. Well, I
pollution?
guess
Because I believe it's
I don't know.
I think it's like the petrol industry or like the gas
Mm,
industry, and then I believe
Uh,
fashion is right under that, right?
yeah.
where's the farming industry with all the cow farts? That's up there
True.
too, isn't
True.
it?
Yo, that's the big one.
right.
Yeah.
But like, kind of unironically, like
No, like unironically,
how much
it is
methane
actually a
comes
big
out of
one.
these cows is kind of
Right.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I saw
Uh,
that New Zealand are gonna like start taxing farmers for their cow farts
Yeah, they are.
because of the release of
I remember
methane.
hearing about this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the methane. That is what it is. But yeah, I guess I mean, look, I enjoy a good burger, but
Yeah,
they are pretty wasteful, to be frank.
but I
Yeah,
do like a burger. You
yeah,
can't say
but
no.
damn, those burgers are good, bro.
Mhm.
Oh my god.
Let
Yeah,
that be my grandchild's problem. I'll eat burgers for the rest of my life. Not my problem.
Uh-huh.
yeah, my
I'm kind
grandchildren are
of
just like in sweltering heat. I'm just
yeah.
like, yeah, but
Like,
man, I had
well,
some
yeah, but
great
I had to eat.
burgers.
So I had to eat my like, my McDouble.
Yeah,
So like.
exactly.
Yeah, oh my god.
I think
Yeah.
I've officially decided to never go back to McDonald's.
Never go back.
Never go
Yes, to
back.
never go
Okay,
back. Because
okay,
the
Why
never
only
McDonald's
intentionally
specifically?
go
Just all
back.
fast food or McDonald's specifically?
well, because I actually quite enjoy only the fries at McDonald's, and that was the only driving force for me to
Yeah.
get more McDonald's. Because everything
Wendy's, I think, is
else,
significantly better.
uh, perhaps I
The
haven't
only
had
thing
Wendy's since high school,
like,
so
in terms of the big three, I'd put Wendy's at the top, and then McDonald's in the middle.
mhm.
Only, I mean, their fries would probably be above Wendy's, but only when they're hot. When they get
Right.
cold, they're garbage. So
Yeah.
McDonald's in the middle, and then Burger King's like all the way down here. I hate Burger King.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't had Burger King since like maybe middle school.
Me neither. Probably earlier than that.
I've
I
never
hated
had
it. I hate
Burger
it.
King. I don't remember ever stepping inside a Burger King
Really?
actually.
I
Like,
hate. I'm surprised even in business with this conversation. It seems like
yeah, yeah.
everyone's agreeing here that we just never eat Burger King because it's gross.
Right. I don't know. I mean, are their burgers good? I don't know. I don't remember.
Not from what I remember. I just remember as a kid
Um,
thinking it was gross, and then I never ate there ever again. I just got
Mhm.
McDonald's and Wendy's.
Yeah, we
And,
never
and I will only
really.
ever get burgers from McDonald's. I will never
Mhm.
get the chicken McNuggets because they made me sick once as a kid and made me throw up in the movie theater.
oh, really? Damn.
Yep.
Because those
So I will
I
McNuggets
never
are
eat.
pretty
I will
good
never
though.
eat
I
chicken
don't know.
McNuggets again.
uh-huh. I will never probably have a burger from McDonald's again because they're never good. They're
They're
never
not very
good.
good. Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Yeah. I'm also just like, why don't I just freeze a patty and bake it? It'll taste better.
Okay.
It
Bake
I
a
don't think
patty?
that way, but
No, freeze.
You don't.
Freeze.
you don't
Not
grill
a
it?
patty. Well, the grills at my place right now are closed until the spring
Hold on.
because everything in our leasing office is being like redone or whatever.
yeah, I'm with you on the fast food though, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not
Alex,
the cooking
everything
part.
okay?
I would, but
No, my
oh,
mom just walked
hello?
in and she turned off the light on me.
I was like, Alex, are you about to get murdered?
I
What's
was just
going on?
plunged into
I
darkness.
don't know why
This is
she
the
did that.
end. That would be a stark end to the podcast. I gotta say.
Imagine that he's like,
Yeah, yeah.
You just see me
And
like,
then,
You just get whacked.
yeah, and then the video just ends like.
Mhm.
yeah, just
Yeah,
cuts
yeah,
out, and you're
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
well,
Oh,
I guess he's
okay.
dead.
Alrighty then.
Well, good luck.
But yeah, I don't like any McDonald's like anything from McDonald's apart from the fries. I used to eat quite a few of the chicken nuggets in college because they were easy to just order a ton because you could order a ton for pretty cheap on like
Right,
Uber
right.
Eats. Although at the same time, everything on Uber is like super
On Uber Eats. Wait a
super
second.
overpriced. Super overpriced.
Yeah.
Well, because at least I know from like my dad's business, it's because since what we usually do is since they take like a 30% cut of all
Mhm.
orders,
Uh-huh.
all our prices on Uber Eats are 30% higher than what they are in the store.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
right.
Yeah.
So that way we still make the same amount of money off it.
Right. That makes sense. From a business
Mm.
perspective, that definitely makes sense. But the thing
But
was,
obviously from a consumer, you're like, what
Yeah.
the hell? I gotta pay more.
right. I mean, because the general consensus, I feel like, is if you're paying that delivery fee, you should probably get more food, right? So that like it'll last a few more days or something like that. Like it makes a little bit more sense because otherwise, like, what are you going to order Uber Eats again the next day or something, right? Especially if you're not cooking. If you're in college, right, it can be difficult to cook every day or whatever,
Yeah.
or like meal prep as much. So I would sometimes try to order excess amounts of food so I'd be able to eat it over the course of a few days. Anytime I've had McDonald's food, it has been horrible to have for more than that first meal. It's not a good idea.
Oh,
It's not a
God,
good
yeah.
idea. It is
Oh, no.
probably the worst idea that you could have because
Oh.
those fries are absolute dog shit after your first meal.
Yeah.
You have to eat it when you first get it.
Yes.
If you let McDonald's sit
Yeah.
out, it becomes like uneatable.
Yes, they're fantastic when you first order them. They're fresh off of being
Yep.
like fried and everything. But after a while, you're just like, what is this? I don't know.
Dude,
And nothing
have you
else
guys-
compares. Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. So, okay, I'm with you, dude. It's terrible. Like day 2, awful. However, have you guys heard the like this? There's like this famous story from like I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, of a guy like bought I guess it's just a regular McDonald's burger,
Mhm.
and then put it in his coat pocket and forgot about it for like 15 years.
How do
Like
you forget about it? Did you not order it to eat it? What did he order it for?
well, ordered it to eat it, right? I guess something happened. They forgot to eat it, right? And then they put their jacket in the closet and they didn't wear it till like they moved out, right? Okay. And then so they reached back into their pocket and found the old burger, right? And I swear to God, it was in perfect condition. Like there's an image of the burger and it's like perfectly preserved. And that just got me thinking like what the hell do they put in these burgers
Right.
that like what sort of crazy like is it like 112% preservatives in the burger? Like what is it like am I eating plastic? Like why is it preserved
I mean,
after like
you said this was like 15, 20 years ago, right? I feel
yeah,
like a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people have gone a lot more keen on that stuff. It seems like they've definitely a lot of fast food chains have tried to like shy away from just
That's true.
overloading
That's
this
true.
stuff with
Yeah.
like preservatives and stuff now. Like now, now they all promote our patties are now true 100% beef. And I'm like,
True,
okay,
true,
what
true.
the hell? What the hell was I eating before?
What
that?
was it before?
Yeah, like, that's
They've
what I'm
added
saying. Like, I feel like
salads to the menu and like apple slices
yeah, they
and
had
stuff.
salads to
Yeah,
the
Like,
menu. Like they realize that like I feel like
yeah.
society, like companies are starting to like back then like 70s, 80s, 50s, 60s. Nobody cared. Everybody was just going eating
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
But like now they think companies realize that people are a lot more health conscious about that stuff.
yeah.
So you got fast food places selling salads. Everything's got like a low sugar free option.
That's
Right.
true.
You
That's
know,
true.
the
But I
companies are
feel
trying to
like
encapsulate on that.
what's really strange to me is just their patties. Any of them, I'm just like, why do they taste so poor the next day? Whereas, like, say you went to like anywhere else and you just got a
Yeah.
burger or like whatever it was,
Mhm.
and you just had it the next day, like you had the leftovers or whatever because you just
It's probably
didn't finish
because
it.
they're not fresh. They're frozen. That's probably
Oh,
why.
maybe it's that. It could also be the
That's
cut of
what
the
that would be
meat,
my
like
guess
which
is that
meat they're
they're
using
frozen
too.
before the fact that they're like frozen beforehand.
Yeah,
It makes it so like they don't hold like the flavor as well.
that's
So
probably
just being
true.
fresh meat from the
True. That's
beginning.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
There's also a question of are they really using beef or are they just using whatever's in the back of the kitchen? You know, guys. I mean, just let's
Mm.
think about that for
Well,
a
hey, the
second.
commercials tell me they're
Yeah.
100% real beef now. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. You
I
They've
have to believe
changed.
that. I
okay.
They've
have to
Well,
believe
changed.
the
They've
commercial.
you
changed.
know what? They probably
Yeah.
take like the cow heads that they chop off and use that. That's probably where it comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
Yeah,
100% beef. It's just like the ear of the cow.
yeah,
yeah. It's like the beef that they wouldn't sell in stores, but it's still beef.
they're
Yeah.
just
But
We're
it's
just
still
not
beef.
we're just not putting like the
Yeah.
bones and like the marrow into the burgers
Yeah.
anymore.
We
We're
mash
using
up the
beef.
esophagus and
right.
Yeah.
yum yum. Anyway. Yeah. Like what's okay.
Yeah, so I'm just like I don't really trust fast food chains in terms of the
Don't
quality of
blame
their
you.
food. The only thing I'll
Yeah.
eat now is probably fries, unless I'm like really desperate. If you're like on a road trip or something, right, and you're just driving around, you need some food, maybe. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
beyond
Exactly.
that, I'm like, why should I continue to order this type of
Oh
food?
no. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because even a 10 pack of their chicken nuggets, if I
Mhm.
eat that whole thing, or even if I eat just like 6 of them, I
Feel
will
gross.
feel horrible in my chest. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
what is this? What is causing this like
Yeah. Yeah.
horrible
Yeah.
reaction in my body? So
Yep.
it's
Right.
just a
Right.
bad idea. Because I tried those several times in college where I was like, you know what? I need food. I need something that I can eat. I don't want to cook right now. I got other things to
Uh-huh.
do. And I would get like 10 or 20 packs of those chicken nuggets every now and again. And it was never a good time.
Never a good
Never.
experience.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
no.
had I just taken the time to, I don't know, go to a grocery store, buy some frozen Tyson, like chicken nuggets, and heat those up, would have been better.
That's
Like,
what I did.
I could have just microwaved them, and I would have been happier, to be honest.
You would microwave the frozen nuggets?
No,
I usually
I would prefer.
I would have usually thrown them in the oven.
Yeah, I would prefer to bake them, but I'm saying I would even just microwave it. And
Oh, you would
probably,
even do that? Okay, so
yeah.
you're saying yeah.
It's definitely better if you bake them because the breading doesn't come off very easily and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, that is to say, yeah, I'm done with McDonald's pretty much because now that I just purchased an air fryer, came in yesterday. From
yeah?
one of my many Black Friday purchases, and now I just need some potatoes, and I can chop those up and fry them very
Yeah.
easily. Because
I've
I
heard those
baked
air
them.
fryers are like revolutionary.
Oh yeah, they're great.
People love air fryers.
Air fryers are fantastic. I think they're a great alternative to frying within oil. They save a lot of oil. On top of
They're
that,
healthier.
they're
No
healthier.
oil.
I will say the one thing is you have to figure out how to get them as crispy as you want. Still, I think there's some wiggle room there. Like you have to figure it out. Because I've had issues where it's kind of hard to create something that's as crispy as what you'd get just from frying them in oil.
Frying it in oil. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think the
It's
health benefits are
closer
definitely
to baking than it is to true frying, but it's still
Yes.
like
yes,
more crispy than you would get just by frying them,
yeah,
or by baking them. I mean,
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. But now I have an Instant Pot and a air fryer. I think that's pretty much going to cover everything that I need, and then I'll obviously have baking and regular cooking as an option. But I'm less of a fan of regular cooking unless I'm making a lot and it's for a lot of people, simply because it's more annoying. You have to be a lot more attentive to what you're doing if it's just sitting on a stove. Luckily, I don't have a gas stove. It's an electric stove. So it's not as big of a problem if I step away for a few minutes, but I still wouldn't do that with just a stovetop item. But for baking and everything, I can just sit here at my desk and wait for my alarm to go off. Same thing with the Instant Pot and same thing with the air fryer. So it's much nicer.
You keep cutting out,
your
bro.
mic is doing the thing again where it's cutting out.
Really?
It's going a little wild. It's going a little
Yes.
wild. Yeah.
Like I missed like half a second.
I
at the
may have
end
just
there.
messed this up. Okay. Let me switch which microphone I'm using.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the audio quality is fine.
The audio
It's
quality
is
is
good,
good.
it
It just
randomly
randomly
cut out. Yeah.
Is this better?
No,
the mic
it's
quality
terrible.
is terrible.
That's atrocious. Oh my god.
That's
I'd rather have the other one back.
that's my camera, I think.
Well, let's
Don't
go.
use that one.
Okay, I
Oh,
won't
this
use
is
that
perfect. This is the authentic Albert experience.
one.
My god.
I think what's happened is yesterday I was keeping my keyboard on here when I was in the middle of putting everything together, and I moved my microphone to my other table,
Oh well.
and I didn't
them up when you
unplug it.
moved it.
I didn't unplug it. I just yanked the wire.
Oh.
So that might be the problem. I might have to get a replacement wire for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just let me know if that continues to happen, and I'll shut up, and you guys can talk.
Yep.
Yeah, it happens. I don't know, maybe every couple minutes or something. I don't know.
It's not terrible.
It's
Just
not
give
too
it a couple
bad.
minutes
It's
to
not
cut
too
out for
bad.
like a second. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay. Every podcast episode has something going wrong with it. It's all
Yeah,
good.
every podcast, something, some new quirk. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Has it been 2 hours? I don't remember quite when we started.
I don't know.
but
It's just under 2 hours now. Yeah. Because we started late, but that's okay. If you guys
Right.
we can jump off today. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to cover some interesting.
Yeah, there was a
topics,
good
some
discussion today.
education.
We did. We did.
Yeah. It was nice. Yeah.
Alrighty. Thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully I'm not cutting out as I do this outro. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation.
Just cut out
Oh
when you
my
said
god,
that.
that was so funny. Oh my god. Okay.
Hopefully I'm not cutting out when I said
Did I cut out while I was doing
Yeah,
that?
you did.
yes.
Oh no.
It was perfect.
What if
we're
you do
laughing
the
at.
outro? Say goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching the Albert Thomas experience. Wait, what are we calling this thing again? A moment in
A
time.
moment in time. That's not what the
Dude, I'm
The
gonna
Albert
keep going
Thomas
with like
experience.
new podcast names every episode. Thanks for
Uh,
watching the Albert Thomas experience with your host Albert Thomas. Yeah, I don't know. Alex, you got anything else
Like
to
and
say?
subscribe. Smash the
Oh
like button.
yeah,
Smash the subscribe button.
if you're on
Smash
YouTube,
whatever
if
button-
you're specifically on YouTube,
I don't know what button you have to smash on Spotify, but if you're on Spotify,
Click the,
smash that button.
add us to
Yes,
your
follow
likes.
us. What is it on Spotify?
You
can
could
follow
follow
us,
it. You could
Follow
follow on Spotify.
Follow us on Spotify. YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button.
Smash.
I
Destroy
don't know what other
the like button.
platforms, but smash
Break
those
it.
buttons too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh my
Alrighty.
God, nailed it.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.